It only just recently dawned on me, a huge eureka moment, that I haven't been reviewing any of the games that I've been playing. Like, I've reviewed them on stream, but I haven't done, like, a video, like a pseudo moist meter on any of them for, like, the last month or so. And I've played, like, every major release over the last month. I have, of course, posted all of them to my gaming channel, which I do give, like, a review once I've finished the games. But I haven't done like an actual formal one here, so I'm going to play a little catch-up because gaming journalism has never been worse. And I don't say that lightly. Some of the scores I've seen recently, whoo boy, I don't know what the fuck has gone wrong at some of these outlets. Maybe the chemtrails theory is real, but it's localized entirely to gaming journalists. It's fucking baffling, some of these scores I've been seeing. So, in the glory hole that is game reviews, there's only one cock you can trust. So I want to give you my thoughts on some of the most recent AAA titles that I've beaten, starting with probably my favorite, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. So when this came out, I was a little tardy to the party. I saw a lot of people were shitting on it. They were saying that it was like really bad because it was kind of one-to-one with the original, and also apparently it had like day one performance problems. But since that farty got sharded without me, when I arrived to the shindig, it kind of was just fixed. I didn't have a single hiccup with this game. There was no performance issues at all. And I'm really happy that it was like one-to-one with the original, just like upgraded with some quality of life improvements. That's like exactly what I want. But admittedly, I do kind of understand it, because if you went into the game under the impression it'd be like Resident Evil 2 Remake, where it really does feel like an entirely different game, like that is, you know, deviated from the OG, but still like faithful, then I could understand being a little disappointed that this one is so close to the OG. But for me, I love that. I played the original when I was younger, but I know for a fact I didn't beat it. My brain couldn't fathom the Kojima vision and the genius behind the design of the game, and I know for a fact I never saw those credits roll. So, coming out here in my 30s, I knew this time around this was probably going to be special, and it was even more special than I imagined it would be. The game is just so fucking fun. It is this beautiful playground of just insanity that you can pull off. So, like, towards the end of the game, probably my favorite example of that. You can defeat one of the bosses, one of the major antagonists, and you get his camo. When you defeat them using CQC or using only, like, non-lethal, you get a special drop from them, usually camo. So that's how I did my whole playthrough, and when I got to that boss and I got that camo, and the camo is two-sided. On the front, it's the Volgan fit, so as long as that front is facing enemies, they don't shoot at you, but on the back is an American flag, so if they see that, they'll shoot at you. So the final scene of the game, wearing this camo, all I would do is I would make sure I was angled towards all the bad guys, so they'd shoot a few bullets, and then I'd turn and stare at them like with the Medusa stare, and they'd just stop, because they thought I was their commanding officer. So it was just so fucking amazing. Just look at this. Pull me up next to them. I have some strong words for them. I don't need to. They understand their objective. It's to not hurt me.
Snake, behind you.
Eva, step on it. The mind control is working. Eva, give it some gas. Eva, let's get out of here. I feel like if I take out my gun, they're gonna shoot at me. Eva, please. I feel like there's only so long this can work. Alright, I'm gonna go for it. Oh no, we're fine. How about a thank you, boys? Stop shooting! I'm like that, who was that evangelist? the guy that would like cure people by staring at them, Brazo, I think it was, with the Brazo stare. It is just so fun to get experimental with all of the crazy ways to engage with the enemies. Also, the game looks amazing. It is a beautiful looking game. The story I absolutely love, even though it is just fucking Insano style nonsense sometimes. It is just so charming and so like it draws you in. Everything about Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater I think is just a fucking grand slam. I absolutely loved the game. And I feel like there is so much depth to it. I didn't really do a whole lot of stealth. I was mainly fucking around with all kinds of wacky approaches and wacky ideas. But I already know, because I went back and watched some like people that are really good at stealth doing some crazy challenge runs, that there's just so much to do in this. There's so much freedom to explore and approach every encounter in unique ways. And there's so many like wild mechanics to like even just the story elements where like you can approach even like narrative pieces in so many different ways. So like, for instance, you get captured at one point, you're in a jail cell. Well, one of the ways you can get out is you can make friends with the guard by like throwing your meal back at him 3 times. Like there's just so many things you can do. I cannot glaze the game harder. I think it is a banger. So let's go from Metal Gear Solid into the next AAA game on the docket, which would be Chronos: The New Dawn. I think this game is a sleeper hit. I don't know how well the game is sold. Hopefully it's selling really well because it deserves it. I saw, or rather I heard, some publications gave this like a 5 out of 10 in some cases. Like I know IGN I think gave it a 7, which is a little more reasonable, but I think the game is like really good, and I think people just are kind of sleeping on it. This is a game that I think a lot of people have probably seen snippets of at like Jeff Keighley's Game Awards and stuff, because they have like the iconic pussy helmet where you kind of look like Isaac from Dead Space if his helmet was more like astronaut vaginal shaped. And it's a game that does borrow a bit from Dead Space in terms of like atmosphere and aesthetic, but it's not really playing like Dead Space other than the ability to stomp on enemies on the ground for dismemberment to try and stop them from like fusing and being stronger. It's a game that's more similar to Resident Evil, which all of you know I'm a huge Resident Evil guy. I just played all 30 of those fucking games over the last like 2 months. So I really liked it. I think the story was extremely unique. It's a story, well, I don't know if I should get into spoilers when it comes to reviewing games like this. I'm totally fine to do it for like movies and shows and shit, but I feel like maybe for games it's not a good idea. So instead, I'll just give you the basics. You are on a mission. You are looking to collect people for a greater purpose, a greater calling. You meet a friend along the way, and the two of you have a noble goal in mind together. Humanity is kind of doomed after a big apocalyptic infection type thing spread. And where the story goes, I think most people probably won't expect, and I was really drawn into it. I think it was a really good narrative. I will say, though, I do think the finale, albeit I do think it is strong, I think a lot of people might be a little disappointed with a very cliche element that gets introduced that you've probably seen in a lot of sci-fi before, but I do think they handle it well here. I think they do a good job with it, but I think some people might find that underwhelming. I think the game is really good, but it does have flaws. This is not like a 9 out of 10 game or anything like that. It's not a fucking masterpiece, but this is a game that I think is extremely solid that most people will probably have a lot of fun with. The biggest hiccups for this game come from its gameplay. The guns lack any and all semblance of like power. Half the time I couldn't even tell when a bullet fired. So it's gonna feel like you're shooting the fucking noisy cricket from Men in Black, where you see the kickback, but you don't really see anything else. Like, it is powerful, no doubt, but there's not really any way of knowing that. But I still, like, the weapons are still, like, fun to use and everything, but I just thought that was worth mentioning. The biggest thing, though, is the inventory. I hate the inventory in here. I'm totally fine with like really strict inventory management. Like I said, I just played all the Resident Evil games. There are some in there that are just unforgiving. They will spank your cheeks red. So you have to be like really careful with inventory management. This game takes it to an extreme where you get like no inventory slots. You have to like fully commit all of your cores, which is what you use to upgrade inventory, health, and all that, to inventory. You can't really deviate from that. You need to beeline inventory. because otherwise you're never going to have space for all the key items, and there's tons of key items. So your guns take up an inventory slot, your bullets take up an inventory slot, your healing items take up an inventory slot, and anything else. Key items like bolt cutters, stuff like that. And that's fine and dandy, but I think it is criminal how little space you have and how small the stacks are. So like shotgun, you can only stack 5. Anything above 5, you make a separate stack, so now you're taking up 2 slots. And it takes like sometimes 3 or 4 shotgun pumps in order to kill an enemy. So it's just really unforgiving, and it just feels tedious for the sake of being tedious. Like, it just becomes a headache, a chore more than anything. Like, I don't think it adds a challenge, because you'll always be able to overcome it. Like, you can integrate melee into things, but it's just so annoying to have to like decide between carrying like 2 stacks of ammo or leaving space for a key item that you might encounter here pretty soon. I don't know, I just hated the inventory so much. But outside of that, I think the gameplay is good. I don't think there's a lot of enemy variety, so it's going to get a little stale fighting the same enemies over and over and over again for most people. But I think that the story makes up for that. The visuals are top-notch too. It is a breathtaking game. It looks amazing. And I just think overall it's a really solid experience. I guess if I was to like slap numbers on these games, I would tell you to go fuck yourself. I don't do that anymore. I don't think numbers really contribute anything here. I'm just giving you all of my like raw thoughts here, vomiting them out, letting you know, did I like it, did I not like it? Or do I think it's worth playing, do I not think it's worth playing? For Chronos, I definitely think it's worth playing. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, also definitely think it's worth playing. Let's go ahead and move on to the next AAA game. So now let's move on to Dying Light the Beast. This is brand spanking new, just came out like a week ago. This puppy is fresh here. This bun is straight out of the oven. And it's hot. This game is a slapper. I think this is the best Dying Light game. And I know a lot of people, myself included, were kind of let down with Dying Light 2. This is such a drastic improvement. It is night and day. I do also think it is better than the first one. And I think a lot of people were probably confused about Dying Light the Beast. I saw in chat when I was streaming this, a lot of people asking if this is a full game or a DLC. This is a full standalone game. And it feels like it too. It is meaty. So I mainly did the main story. I only did like 3 or 4 side quests, and there's a lot of side quests. And at least the ones I did were pretty good. Like, they were beefy, they had a lot to do, and they were enjoyable. They weren't just like really boring side quests that were just kind of afterthoughts. So it seems like they're pretty fleshed out. Point is, it still took me like 15 hours just to go through mainly the main story. And I did do quite a lot of exploring. So in Dying Light the Beast, you get a big sandbox where you can, of course, play and get a little wild with how you approach killing zombies. The movement in this game is silky. It is so fucking smooth. It is buttery. And there are so many movement options. The skill ceiling on just traversing Dying Light the Beast is sky high. There are so many flexible ways of approaching this. I am blown away. It was so fun. But I will say, I really wish they did still have fast travel, because going from one side of the map to the other, which you're going to do a lot in the campaign, like, that did feel a little needless to not just have like a couple of fast travel spots from like main hubs. That'd be really nice. It'd just be a good quality of life change. But since the movement is so good, it was never like a slog to do that or anything. You were still having fun because you were just gliding around the terrain. You even get a grappling hook eventually, which then offers even more ways of traversing and even more ways of like skill expression. There's a lot of things you can do with the grappling hook, like comboing out of moves. The parkour has never been better than in Dying Light the Beast. They crushed the parkour. I really think Dying Light the Beast, the focus was just on making a really fun game. They put all of their eggs in the basket of gameplay, which of course neglected the story. That is the worst part of Dying Light the Beast. The narrative is not great. It's serviceable. Like, I don't think it's a bad story, it's just very simple. Crane, Kyle, he wants revenge. He's been experimented on for 13 fucking years. He finally breaks free, and he just wants to let the demons out, and he wants to get revenge and kill the guys responsible. Doesn't really get too much deeper than that. And that's fine, because it lets you just go out there and slaughter a ton of zombies, kill a bunch of bad guys. It's great. The melee combat feels super smooth. It feels really good. Everything gameplay-wise, I think, is top-notch. And also, a really surprising standout in this was the music. I actually thought they did an amazing job with the music here, which I did not expect. But again, the emphasis is on the gameplay, and I think pretty much everyone will enjoy the gameplay of Dying Light the Beast. If you've played the previous games, I think you're going to love this one. I think it is across the board an improvement in every area except story. I don't think the narrative is as strong as like Dying Light 1, but I also don't think that they really tried to make it better. They really just, I feel, wanted to deliver a super fun to play game, and in that aspect, I think they very much succeeded. I definitely think it's worth buying. Now let's move on to the most recent AAA game, the final one over the last like month or so that I've played through and beaten, Silent Hill F. I actually just finished it tonight, and chat made me aware that I haven't reviewed any games in a while, which is what prompted me to, make this video. Silent Hill F is a mixed bag. I really think there are some things to like about it. I think the atmosphere is great. I think the story is really interesting, but very, very hard to follow and extremely confusing even after you get towards the end of the game, starting to finish the game. It doesn't start to come into focus what it's all really about until like the last 20-ish minutes. So a lot of times you're going to be fumbling around in the dark trying to piece together well, what does all this mean? Obviously, there's a lot of symbolism, but what does it all tie into here? And I think for a lot of people, it's not going to really feel like a Silent Hill game. And I do get that. It does feel pretty far removed from what you expect in a Silent Hill experience. It seems like they wanted to get very experimental. And I think it hits more than it shits, but it's not all great. I do think the protagonist here, Hinako, is a very strong protagonist. It's a character with a lot of complexity. I don't want to get into spoiler. I was just about to drop a huge fucking spoiler. I think Hinako is a very interesting character. And there is a lot to unpack with her journey and what she is going through here. And she is surrounded by some characters that I don't think get as much fleshing out as I think they needed to. Like Sukako, Shu, or Rinko. I don't really think you get enough from them to make them compelling characters, side characters here. It feels like it's mainly about Hinako, which is fine, but you start to not care about the others all that much. But I do think it is a good story. I want to make that clear. I think overall it is a very strong story, albeit keeps you in the dark for a really long time fishing for answers. I think they nailed the atmosphere. It's a very, really, really good looking game. The art direction is great. I like the style of the game. But the biggest problem is the combat. Holy fuck, the combat is annoying. It's not terrible. For the first 2 hours, you're probably going to feel oh, this is refreshingly different. This is kind of interesting. It has dodging and hitting with the big steel pipe and a sledgehammer. And these enemies have interesting movesets that you'll dodge or counterattack on. You have a focus meter where you can do new attacks if you fully fill your focus. You have your sanity meter to also manage. Oh, you also have omomoris, which act as these charms that you can put on that give you bonuses like max stamina, max health, or certain things where if you counterattack an enemy, you get some health back. It seems like there's a lot of depth there. Until you get 4 or so hours in the game and you realize there's only 3 enemy types, really. I mean, I guess there's 5 if you include the ones that have coral on them, and if you include the farty booby monsters and stuff like that. But there's not really a lot of enemies. The first 2 enemies you encounter in this game are within the first 45 minutes, and that is mainly what you see throughout the whole game. So every fight feels the same, and it feels slow. Very, very slow and sometimes unresponsive. And it's slow by design. This isn't supposed to be a Souls game like a lot of people think that it is. Yeah, it has dodging, and yes, it has, right bumper to attack, and there's a heavy attack and stuff. But it doesn't really have a lot of Souls DNA or a Souls formula here, which I think is a good call. But what they have instead is just not very fun. It loses its luster so early because you've already done all the combat has to offer right after the tutorial. It does not get deeper. So it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And as you go throughout the game, it just keeps throwing so many combat sections at you. Pretty much every single facet of this game is kill these enemies, then move forward. So you have to fight through fucking hordes of enemies in a combat system that is just so simple and not really fun. And I know some people have been saying, oh, it's a skill issue, that's why people aren't liking the combat. It's not hard. Granted, I didn't play on max difficulty, I just did normal difficulty. It's not hard, it's just really slow. I think I only died twice in the whole playthrough, and it was mainly just from my eyes glazing over during the combat sections and desperately trying to fucking brute force my way through or like avoid them entirely because it's just not worth the time of like hitting them 6 times to kill them, and just hitting them 6 times takes like 2 minutes just because of how slow it all moves. I really, the combat did not do it for me. I enjoyed it in the beginning, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see how this, like, you know, gets deeper and, you know, how it all kind of pans out, because certainly there's more to it. I'm getting a lot of different, like, weapons, so there's probably more to it, but there never is. So the combat was a big letdown. I do like the systems that they put in place, though, where you collect things where you can either use it as a healing item or a booster, or you can offer it to your shrines, which will give you faith, which you can then spend to upgrade, like, your max health, max stamina, or Omamori slots, which, again, as I mentioned, are like charms that'll help you out. I think that's a cool idea, but overall the gameplay is just not great, in my opinion. The puzzles are cool. I mean, Silent Hill's always had really cool puzzles, and I think that's pretty intact here. There's some really creative puzzles in here. Some real brain busters. I got stumped on 1 or 2. I think they did a good job with the puzzles. I like the levels. I really like the environment, especially when you're in the alternate realm. Not going to get too deep on that because I'm really trying to avoid spoilers. I think it's a good game. Do I think it's like the strongest Silent Hill? Fuck no. Do I think it's as strong as Silent Hill 2 Remake even? No, I don't. Do I think it's worth buying? Yes. If you like this genre of games already. This is an expensive game. This is one of those $70 price tag games now. So I do think that this is a game that is probably for people that already know they like this genre and don't mind putting up with gameplay that is probably not going to be what they want for the entire, like, 10 or 11 hours they spend going through the game. Because you're probably going to want to play through multiple times for all the endings. This is a game that has multiple endings that require multiple playthroughs. And I think this is a good game. I enjoyed it. I don't regret my time with it. But it is not a game I think everyone's going to like. And I was going to throw in a little bonus here for Hollow Knight Silksong now that I've finished the true ending. I gave you the review after doing just the main ending. But my thoughts really haven't changed that much. I love the true ending. It still is my second favorite game of the year, just behind Expedition 33, but I do think Silksong is a masterpiece. Everything I said and gushing grannies over it in my first review of it after finishing the first main ending is still true even after finishing the true ending. The true ending added a lot of content, like going through and doing all the wishes just to get there. Like, it was a journey, and it was an extremely fun one. Now, I will change my thoughts on one thing in regards to this. I now believe it is harder than the first Hollow Knight. The content they introduce going through true ending, holy Toledo, that shit was unforgiving. So I do think Silksong is more difficult than the first Hollow Knight. I know difficulty's actually been like a huge discussion around this game. I'm really happy that they didn't shy away from the challenge and they made it like really tough because it feels so fucking good. When you overcome the boss, when you overcome what was the big obstacle for you, it just feels so rewarding in Silksong. I think this game is so special, and for $20, I cannot believe the game you get at that price point. This is a fucking masterpiece by all possible definitions. So, overall, the games that have come out over the last month, September has been a slapper. And as of making this video, another one is dropping, Hades 2. I've, of course, played the early access, so I already know this game is a banger too. The games we are getting right now are great. We are in a really nice period here of slapping releases. It's really nice. So I just wanted to drop all those thoughts here for you. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.